Hey guys, Aida Jacobs here. Welcome to my latest video. On this particular recording, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm assuming that it's different. I don't know if anyone else has done this tag, but basically, all I'm going to do is read one favorite scene from each of my books, and if anybody else wants to do this tag is open to anybody, by the way. You can either read a favorite scene from something you've published or something that you're currently working on. So without further ado, let's get started. The first scene will be from my first book, Dragon Guardian Fire. And as a little background on the scene, Marin is celebrating her birthday at the Ever Kingdom, Silvestri, which is basically the central kingdom of all the elves in Primordia. Okay, here we go. A few hours later, Duncan, Marin, and Kira stood quietly together after the feast had ended. Lilias, though in discussion with Elfried and Nicodemus, was not far from them, and all three men kept a watchful eye on the young trio, as did the other celestial knights in attendance. While this went unnoticed by Marin and Kira, Duncan could feel the weight of all the gazes, and he did not like it. However, he was determined not to darken Marin's evening and chose to pretend that he did not notice. "It's so strange seeing you in a dress, Marin," Duncan said at last with a small chuckle. "But you do look so very lovely," Kira said encouragingly. "Just like I said you would," she added with a playful nudge to Marin's side. "Oh, there's no doubt about that," Duncan said with a nod, before grinning teasingly. "But it's still strange seeing you looking, well, like a girl." "Oh, please don't say that anymore," Marin said with a soft whine before all but burying her face in her silver goblet and taking a deceptively small sip of dandelion wine, before lowering her goblet once more and simply gazing into its contents. "I already feel silly and ridiculous enough. I know I'm not nearly as lovely as you, Kira, but—" "Now that is ridiculous, Marin," Kira said while giving Duncan a small but meaningful shove and the smallest of glares. "Of course you're lovely. Duncan didn't mean to upset you. Besides," she said with a playful grin, "if you really looked silly and ridiculous, you wouldn't be the object of attention for all the unattached males in attendance," she said with a small but indicative nod. Marin blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" Duncan chuckled. "Kira, would you do the honors?" Kira giggled softly while gently turning Marin's head, and her giggles only intensified when her friend's face turned nearly as red as her hair when she caught sight of all the male elves watching her. "Oh, Marin," she chided gently when the half-elf ducked her head and hid behind her hair, while simultaneously burying her face in her goblet once more. "You should be flattered, not frightened. There's nothing to be frightened of." "So you say," Marin's muffled voice replied from the goblet before she raised her head a bit. "How am I to possibly know if they genuinely find me pretty, or if they simply find me appealing because I'm a princess?" "Because our people are not ruled by such petty things, Marin," Kira answered with a reassuring smile. "You can rest assured that it is your beauty and not your crown that is captivating your prospective suitors," she said with a playful wink. "Please don't call them that," Marin pleaded softly. "But more than one of them very easily could be," Kira said with her smile still in place. "In fact, perhaps one of them is your future husband and you simply don't know it yet." "That's easy for you to say, Kira," Marin said mournfully. "You have your entire life ahead of you, and it's filled to the brim with possibilities, whereas I—" She sighed softly before tucking her hair behind her ears. "I'm sorry," she said as she raised her gaze from her goblet and settled it upon her two friends. I shouldn't be dwelling on such things, especially not tonight. Marin, you're entitled to your feelings and your fears, Duncan said gently while offering his friend a small but reassuring smile. Just not tonight. This is a night for joy and laughter, not fear and worry. Now, can you agree to that? I suppose so, Marin said with a sigh. Good, Duncan said with a smile. Now, when that handsome elf finishes walking over here to ask you to dance, I recommend that you say yes. Marin blinked. Handsome elf? What? She turned and found herself nose to chest with one of the elves who had been watching her before, gulping softly. Marin slowly raised her gaze to the handsome face that was framed by raven black hair that fell past his shoulders. Oh. Happy birthday, princess, the elf said with a formal bow of his head. Thank you, Marin said softly with a shy smile. And you are? Taliesin Roseleaf, he said with a smile as he took Marin's hand in his own and lifted it to his lips to brush a light kiss to her knuckles, his sapphire eyes gazing down into Marin's. My father is your grandfather's chief advisor, and I would be most honored if you would join me in a dance. Marin's face was once again as red as her hair, and it was with a trembling hand that she placed her goblet on a nearby table. That's very kind of you, but Before Marin could come up with an excuse to decline Taliesin's request, she felt Kira's hand against the small of her back. Of course she'll accept your invitation, Kira said with a smile, as she gently but firmly pushed Marin towards Taliesin. Excellent, Taliesin said with a smile as he began leading Marin towards the section of the clearing that had been set up for dancing. That should lift her spirits, Kira said with a smile as a jig began to play. Her smile never once wavered, even when she raised her goblet to her lips. Duncan winced when Marin accidentally stepped on Taliesin's toe. Oh dear. In all of our planning on helping Marin to enjoy herself, did either of us stop to consider whether or not she in fact knew how to dance? An expression of horror, combined with sheepishness, etched itself into Kira's face. Honestly, the thought never once occurred to me. She resisted the urge to cover her eyes when Marin stepped on the hem of her dress and fell forward into Taliesin. Oh, gods. Duncan grinned and chuckled. Taliesin actually didn't seem to mind that. He winced, though I can't say the same for the accidental kick to the shin. And that's one of my favorite scenes from book 1 for many reasons. 1, because it's funny. At least I think it's funny. And 2, because as Kira said, Marin essentially met the love of her life, and she really didn't know it at the time. She just knew that he was a very handsome elf. Okay. The next scene comes from Dragon Guardian Water, which is book 2 in my Primordian Chronicles. Let's see. Yeah, this is the one. Card-carrying Cullenite, literally. This comes from... Oh. Hang on. Sorry. Technical difficulty. I should add that that particular scene was from... was from chapter 13. And this scene is from chapter 10. Okay. Weigh anchor, Virgil ordered, once the elf was aboard, Raise the gangplank! Set the sails! He strode up the stairs that led up to the quarterdeck and glanced over his shoulder, to find Lilias following closely behind him. The pirate raised an eyebrow at the taciturn elf. If you're going to ride my stern like that, you'd best buy me a drink first, lad. He quipped with a wry grin, which was widened with a chuckle when Lilias's jaw dropped. I beg your pardon, Lilias sputtered as the tips of his ears turned bright red. Virgil threw back his head with a laugh, while making his way to the helm. Ha! Oh, untwist your knickers, elf, he chided, as his ocean-colored eyes twinkled with mirth. If you, with all your aged wisdom, can't tell when a man is jesting, then this is going to be a rather long and tedious rescue indeed. Don't go about bothering my crew. They have their jobs to do, and don't have time for your nattering, he added firmly, before looking off into the distance. Lilias gave the smallest of nods, as a sign of understanding. Do you have any idea where to start looking? He asked anxiously, as he looked out onto the open water that lay ahead of them. He strode over to the closest railing and stared out at the ocean, as though to magically will Marin and her captors within range. Having been tilting his head to the side with his eyes half closed, Virgil now grinned as he straightened and gripped the helm. Don't worry, Brenna can't hide from me. I have a knack for finding people at sea. How long until we catch up with them, do you think? Lilias asked as he gripped the railing in order to keep himself from pacing nervously, as he so longed to do. Virgil's grin widened as the ship began moving with the current. Don't worry, elf. We'll catch up to them sooner than you think. There isn't a ship on the entire sea that can match the Leviathan for speed. So you say, but I'll believe that when we have that blighted ship in our sights, Lilias replied as he continued to gaze anxiously out at the open water, his knuckles white now as his fingers tightened their grip upon the railing. Oh, don't go getting your knickers in a twist again, you virgin, Virgil said with a roll of his eyes as he steered the ship. Lilias sputtered and swirled around to face the pirate captain, blushing bright red to the tips of his ears. Well, how did you... I can smell it on ya, Virgil replied with a rakish grin. I've had my fair share of virgins in my time, Lord Lovely Locks. I know them when I see them. He lazily leaned against the helm. What are you? 1,000? 200? 400? How old are you, lad? It's always so hard to tell with you lot. 400, Lilias replied, still taken aback by the direction the conversation had taken in so short a time. Ah, I see. Virgil mused with the smallest of nods. Now then, how is it that such a strapping man like yourself has yet to be plucked? Haven't found a woman or man that you fancy in all your years of existence? What I do or do not fancy is none of your business, Lilias retorted snippily as he fought to get his blush under control. And neither, for that matter, is my virginity. Virgil shrugged his shoulders. Perhaps not, but I find myself rather bored at this present moment and in need of entertainment. And seeing as how you're the only one here who isn't doing work upon my ship... The pirate clapped his hands. Entertain me with a story. Lilias raised an eyebrow as he finally got his blush under control. I am not your jester, he said coolly, while crossing his arms over his chest. This may well indeed be your ship, but I am not one of your crew, and I am not yours to control. Virgil grinned slowly, and his uniquely covered eyes twinkled as the members of his crew began singing a sea shanty while they worked. Ah, Lord Lovely-Locks, he mused with a chuckle. We shall see about that. And for the love of Celestes, stop calling me that, Lilias retorted. What? Virgil asked. That, Lilias replied. Virgil blinked, before his eyes glimmered impishly. Not once have I called you that, but if you insist, I shall endeavour to refrain from calling you thusly. From henceforth, I shall never refer to you as that. Lilias's nostrils flared. Just a bit. That's not what he growled. You know perfectly well what I meant, he said, as evenly as he was able in spite of his growing annoyance. No, I'm afraid you'll have to be more specific, Lord Lovely Locks, Virgil repeated airily while giving the barest ghost of a smile. That! Lilias snapped. You just said it again. Stop calling me that. What? Virgil asked innocently. Lord Lovely Locks, Lilias replied snippily. Virgil smoothed his hair. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say, lad, but I really can't do a thing with it in all of this salty air, he retorted. Lilias's hands clenched into fists, and he growled wordlessly. You are impossible, he blustered. Utterly and absolutely impossible. Virgil grinned knowingly as a chuckle escaped him. Lord Lovely Locks, you have no idea. And little background on this scene, without giving away any spoilers. Marin has been kidnapped. Lilias is going to rescue her, but he can't do so without the help of a pirate named Virgil the Obscure. And that's all I'm going to say of the background for that scene. But I happen to really enjoy this particular scene because it genuinely is funny. It provides a nice little icebreaker to shake up all the tension that had been experienced up until that moment. And I just genuinely love the dynamic between Virgil and Lilias because they are just complete polar opposites, and their interactions always guarantee many, many laughs, and you'll see them in Book 3 also. Speaking of, next scene comes from Dragon Guardian Air, and it is from chapter 15. Okay. I actually referred to this scene in a previous tag, and I finally found it, so I can do it here. Okay. If you watched any of my earlier videos, you'll realize what scene I'm talking about soon enough. Marin sighed heavily and accepted Brianna's help in standing once the brunette had drawn near. She braced herself against Noctum to steady herself when her legs wobbled, and then patted his neck in thanks while accepting her sword from Brianna. Well then, she muttered to no one in particular while sheathing Shadowbane. That's her sword, by the way. After wiping the blade clean on the leg of her trousers. There's another near-death under my belt. Just how many do you have? Brianna asked curiously while raising an eyebrow. It was not often that one heard another speak so cavalierly about nearly dying. Will this be going into one of your epics? Marin asked with a cheeky smile. It might, Brianna retorted with a smirk and a casual shrug of her shoulders. It will make you even more legendary to hear how you laughed in the face of death over and over again. Laughing is not how I would describe it, Marin retorted wryly. Oh, you know what I mean, Brianna replied with a roll of her eyes. It's a turn of phrase. There's no need to split hairs. Now then, how many times was it? Marin opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, while tilting her head to the side and glancing up at the sky, she began counting off with her fingers, her lips moving ever so slightly as she recalled the instances. 4? She replied with a questioning lilt as she looked to Duncan, Kira, and Lilias for confirmation. Duncan blinked. Really? Only 4? At the incredulous glances he got from Karen, Brianna, and Olron, he cleared his throat and hurried to clarify what he meant. What I meant to say is that it feels like Marin has had more near deaths than that. Marin began counting on her fingers once more. Well, there was my birthday celebration, where I was nearly torn limb from limb by the undead. Then there was a time Naga stole my spirit from my body. There was a time Naga infected me with multiple plagues. And then there was this instance. She looked to her 3 friends, who had been with her since the beginning. Am I forgetting anything? What about when we were attacked by undead outside the Copper Forest? Kira asked after a moment of thought. Marin shook her head. No, that was when Taliesin nearly died. I was simply unconscious from exhaustion. Oh, yes, that's right, Kira said with a small nod before giving a small shrug. I suppose it really is just the 4 times then. No. You're forgetting the time Marin got shot with an arrow in the battle outside the Forest of Haven, Lilias countered. Oh, that's right, Duncan said with a nod and a snap of his fingers. I knew there was another one in there somewhere. Marin gave a dismissive wave of her hand. I'm not counting that. That was just a flesh wound. As the one who healed you, I beg to differ, Lilias countered while crossing his arms over his chest. While that arrow just barely missed your heart, it was still close enough for the poisons upon the tip to course that much faster through your blood. Had I not been there by your side when it happened, we would not be here having this macabre conversation. Marin rolled her eyes and huffed. All right, it was 5 times. 5 times in which I almost died. Happy now? Over the fact that you nearly died 5 times? Why, in the name of all the gods, would I be happy about that? Lilias quipped. Marin sighed heavily. Even when I concede your point, you're still not happy. There's simply no pleasing you, is there? She huffed. Of course there is, Lilias replied with a smirk, while leveling his gaze upon Marin. Stop nearly dying. Duncan snorted in laughter before covering it up with a cough. Upon catching the unamused glare, Marin shot at him. I make no promises, Marin remarked with another huff upon looking back to Lilias. Try, Lilias retorted before turning on his heel and striding towards the other Celestial Knights, thereby ending the conversation. And the reason why I love that particular scene so much is because it really is a macabre conversation, and just the casualness with which Marin, Duncan, and Kira keep the tally. And then you've got poor Lilias just like ready to rip out his lovely locks because this little spitfire with whom he has been charged to keep safe during the course of her epic quest, she just keeps running off into danger half-cocked, and he's just like, wait! Forever chasing after her. Ah! He's just so... The poor guy is just so long-suffering. And as the series progresses, he evolves from being a very soft-spoken, fairly calm and collected individual. He becomes increasingly frazzled as the series progresses. The more frazzled he becomes, the snarkier he becomes, and it's just... happen to love character development and character evolution, and his is one of my favorite evolutions throughout the series. Poor 400-year-old virgin. And that's it for now. Thank you for joining me on this tag. I hope you enjoyed the little segments that I read. And again, if you feel like doing this tag, by all means, please do so. Keep in mind that my books can be found on Amazon, Kindle, and BarnesandNoble.com, and if you happen to be part of Kindle Unlimited, you can read them all for free. So until next time, Primordia forever!